right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a very special episode of a couple different podcasts here. We've got Pitchers on the Scorecard and the Snap Hook podcast. For those that are watching, you can see a motley crew of characters here that are the creatives of many of the golf things that you see out there. If you're listening, we'll go around the horn. I got Seth McWhorter, who is a McWhorter creative and the main host of Pitchers on the Scorecard. But we also have Mike Bartels and Jeremy Freeman of Snap Hook Podcast. So, guys, it's great to hang out with you guys, and let's talk some golf and creativity.
Let's do it. Love it.
Forward to it.
Yeah. So, Jeremy, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're doing in the golf space, and we'll kind of dig into it more. But why don't you just introduce yourself for the folks that might not know you?
Yeah, so I'm Jeremy Freeman. I'm a photographer by trade. I worked over at Turner Broadcasting full-time as a staff photographer for 15 years, shooting everything from NBA on TNT, maybe rest in peace soon, to CNN stuff, and then ended up shooting multiple of the matches over the years. And now I'm freelance, but in the meantime, I love golf, and I started shooting my grandfather's golf ball collection is how this all started. And I started the Instagram golf ball gallery that, thanks to really the Sugarloaf social guys, really took off. And so now I'm just looking at any way I can do stuff in the golf space. I'm doing the golf balls. I'll go out and shoot on courses, portraits, whatever it may be. And just kind of at this point, open to all of it.
Yeah, well, you do a very good job. Yeah, for anybody that follows the golf ball gallery knows exactly who you are. And like Seth was joking earlier, a lot of people might just know you as the golf ball gallery guy. So
yeah, it's a problem. Sometimes people, and I'm sure Seth, you might get this too. Sometimes people reach out to you thinking you're a corporation and multiple people. And all the time I'm like, no, I'm just one guy. Like,
yeah, it's all part of the deception
in this back house. Yeah, no one knows, but it's fun that way.
It's like the movie where you go to the counter and you say, "Let me talk to the owner," and the guy turns around and he's like, "All right, how can I help you?"
Exactly.
Yep. Well, you're co-host of the Snap Hook podcast, Mike Bartels. Mike, you're out on the West Coast. We appreciate you joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm a West Coaster, but I'm a Midwest guy in heart. So born and raised St. Louis. Been out west for about 5 years now. But 9 to 5 job is tech sales, so incredibly thrilling work for sure. But my passion and hobby is golf photography, content creation, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, do that on the Pins and Passports Instagram, and just it's something I've loved to do over the past couple of years. That's how Jeremy and I got connected, which has been awesome.
Very nice. Yep. Seth, how about yourself?
What? Yeah, so Seth McWhorter of McWhorter Creative, massive conglomerate consisting of myself. Yeah, I'm a graphic designer. I come from the advertising world and found myself in the golf industry in the past 4 or 5 years. But if you ask anybody at Sweetens Cove, they say this guy loves logos, which is kind of the easiest way to describe what I do. I design golf logos and do branding in golf, but also a lot of other things in the golf industry. And it's been about 4.5 years since I've done McWhorter Creative in the golf world full time, which is incredibly rewarding, and it's been neat to see the golf creative space grow to the point where it necessitates multiple podcasts about it.
Well, it's people recognize all of what you guys do in various aspects, so you all do it very well. My name's Robby Woodard. I guess, Mike, like you, I've been in tech sales for a long time, and as the full-time job. I started Best Ball back in 2012 as a golf app, thinking that we needed another scorekeeping app, but it was more focused on the charity golf side of like, how can we take these simple tee box signs and give these charity tournaments a way to kind of digitally put the sponsorship in people's hands to get more value out of it. And like most things, time and money take off and or run out. So I kind of put best ball on the shelf, but still had the name. And a couple years ago, relaunched Best Ball as how do we tell golf stories? You know, being in sales, I ask questions all the time, talk to people all the time, and thought, let's talk to people and figure out their golf stories, right? Like, what is Jeremy doing on the golf course? Tell me about your best shot, kind of thing, asking questions. So we started podcasting. We started the Whole Story podcast, which we've done for a little over a year and some change now, and we've had some incredible guests. We had Seth. That's how I first met Seth. Ran into Jeremy in the parking lot at Old Barnwell. But yeah, so started podcasting and then figured out, I can help people that have a good voice do the podcasting side as well from the editing and production side. So Best Ball, if you want to label it a golf media company, sure. But we just like telling golf stories and helping people do that. So that's where we're at, and somehow that's how I get to hang out with you guys tonight. So let's have some fun. We've talked about it. Seth and I talk about it on our podcast, Pictures on the Scorecard, and Jeremy and Mike, y'all do as well. But there's so much creativity in golf, and there's different avenues of where people find their creative niche. And let's start with the photography thing. Jeremy, Mike, y'all are excellent at what you do with golf photography. What are y'all seeing out there that I guess is new or really standing out at this point?
I think maybe not so much new, but just the amount of people that are out there taking pictures. I think there's a lot more people that are getting really comfortable with carrying a camera on a golf course and taking photos. I mean, we all know the big names. We all know the big hitters that are out there. But it's been really cool to see people just get out there and flex that creative side of their mind. I mean, that's what I've been enjoying seeing, and that's part of the reason Snaphook was, kind of birthed.
Yeah, I think that it also, in the last 10 years, we'll say, people like the big names, like you say, you have Hafer, you have Matt Cardis, Jeff Marsh, all these people who started shooting golf a little different than what we had seen in the past. It just made people look at it a different way and a little more creative, as opposed to just being your standard news golf photo. And you always had a few that would be out there a little bit in the outliers. Sports Illustrated would do a few things, but it would normally be like one person doing it. And now it's just across the board. Everyone's looking at it from more of a either street photography or commercial photography, just a little different way to see what we've all been seeing for years.
The things that I've been really enjoying are people who, like Kyle Walton and his crew, do an incredible job at it. Their ability to take a picture at a golf course that's not a golf picture, right? It's not a flag, it's not a fairway, but it's maybe a marker on the ground, a tee on the ground. Like, the detailed shots, I think, is really picking up trend right now, and people are really starting to grasp onto it. But those are the cool ones to see, those non-golf photos.
Do you think that social media, what role has social media played in that sensibility to looking at the game from a different angle?
I think it's huge. I think it's really just, it's given someone who's not shooting on the PGA Tour, not shooting the LPGA, it's given this person an ability to show their friends in a creative way and tell the story of their guy's trip that's incredible and make it look even more exciting and like you're there, but you don't have to publish it or do anything like that. It's just throw it on Instagram and everyone gets to be a part of it.
And I also think, too, I mean, I've never shot on tour, but, if you look at somebody like a Matt Hahn, who really got his start from kind of just the social media aspect of things, those people that are now taking photos are taking, I think, a little bit more creative pictures. It's not these Getty standard photos, so it's really cool that we get to see these guys and girls on tour taking photos that are providing more creative content for us to absorb than your kind of standard shots.
You mentioned, tour shots that are a little different. Jeff Marsh is I guess maybe getting notorious for the free fly camera of
Yeah.
like Nelly Corda slow-mo swing, or or other people that do these crowd shots where you're looking past the spectators into a shot, as opposed to, like you said, the Getty of let's get a headshot real quick and get out of there.
Yeah, those are the awesome photos to see. I love it. I mean, it gets my mind going too. As somebody who's just out on a course playing with buddies and taking photos, like, how do you kind of incorporate it and make it not so boring?
How do you see changes in camera technology impacting what can and can't be done, or how things have developed over the years?
I'll let Jeremy go for this. You're the expert.
Well, I was about to text you earlier, actually, Mike, because your photo that you posted yesterday of the shaft, Christian was hitting a ball, and the shaft looks really weird. And the reason for that is it is a very specific thing that you have to be shooting high speed, and it's a rolling shutter. It's just a thing of how a digital camera works. And I almost texted him that he needs to go buy the brand new Sony camera. Has changed how the shutter works. Shutters have worked pretty much two ways forever. And that it's more advanced, can shoot faster, can do expose all at once. And it's this thing that a normal person an average person may not even notice it, but the technology has made it so much better. Being able to shoot digital, being able to bump up your ISO if for some reason, luckily we're on a golf course, we're normally bright sun and everything like that, but you can freeze the ball in the air easier now, do all this stuff that you couldn't do before. I mean, when you look back at even in the 90s and you're shooting film, that you're limited to what film speed you could get. And if you 400s, 800s film speed the most, past that it looks so grainy and gross you couldn't even really use it for anything. So technology has made it so much easier for every person to take great photos.
Yeah, and I've only been using a Sony, which is what I've told from some of the people in Jeremy that we talked to. It's basically like using a computer, right, with a lens on it. So I don't know anything past that, but I do like seeing that people are kind of going more to this film and not so sharp images. I'm not sure if you guys saw it, but at the PGA, somebody snapped a video of Matt Hahn with a Polaroid on the green taking a picture, and it's like, that's awesome. I mean, 4 years ago, people aren't thinking about Polaroids and taking pictures, and it's kind of this like making this resurgence of, let's kind of get back to where we were and not have everything need to be so sharp and so crisp and so clean.
All right, I'm just going to bring this out in the world. This has been in my brain since 2 days ago. U.S. Open, we have some great venues coming up over the next couple of years. We have, obviously, Pinehurst #2 coming up soon. Then we have Oakmont, Shinnecock, all courses that have been around since 1908, 1895, things like that. I may be pitching to take a film camera from that era out on the course and shoot black and white film to show. I mean, think about it, a 1908 camera on the course of Pinehurst of when the year it would have been made. This is the first anyone's heard of this idea because I just thought about it 2 nights ago.
Breaking news.
Yeah.
So it may be too late to get it done for Pinehurst, but then I looked and it's like, oh, we have 2 more very important old school golf courses coming up. So you can
cut to Jeremy on
that.
On the 18th green with like the hood, and everything.
I'm dead serious.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I looked at. I looked at 4x5 film.
Yes.
And it is, and I have seriously looked at either doing how great would player portraits in black and white 4x5 film that would look incredible, or like some course shots. I think it's a way to shoot film with a purpose, because I do think sometimes people shoot film just to say they shot it. And I was thinking of a way to do it for a reason that draws back to something.
Well, I think that what you hit on there, Jeremy, is kind of what when you go to a design school or a photography school, what you're sort of trained to do, which is is capture capture a moment, or design something, or create art that speaks to a concept or tells a story. That's the cliche way of putting it, but I think that that's what's interesting about golf in the past few years. Instagram has kind of been the medium for a lot of this, but people are trying to convey put content out there that gives a glimpse into a community or tells a very specific story, and that's I think that's at the heart of all the good photography that we've talked about, and y'all are included in that, is y'all tell little snippets of stories, and it makes people want to learn more and dive into it, which I think is the purpose of good creative work.
Well, but I think it's creative in general, because what you do, it's also telling the story of with a logo. You have to put so much into a logo to tell a story, because you're telling, like the Pinehurst number 8, for example. The fact that has 100 in it, and it's a centennial course, and like you went all the way through that process to figure it out, or any new course that's the tree farm, how do you put the trees in it properly and show it off? So I think storytelling is the main key in all of this creative to elevate it to the next level, be it photo, video, design, whatever it may be. Like you said, you learn that in college, because you're always at that point taking what you see someone do or have done for years and change it and make it your own.
Right.
Seth,
yeah, absolutely.
Seth, what you do is absolutely incredible, because like I feel like for me and Jeremy, we can go out and physically take the photo, right? You are maybe getting words from somebody to say like, oh, like, this is my idea. I want this, and I want to incorporate this, and I want to do this, and I want it to look like this. And you basically have to take a scattered thought and then create like what they want to see. And so often you knock it out of the park, because everybody says what a great job you do, and it's visual on all the logos that you've created. But I couldn't even freaking imagine having to take somebody's vision in their head who's telling you through their mouth and then putting it on paper.
On that note, I mean, I think the realization I came to really early on when it comes to designing golf logos is like, you can't tell all of those stories and do all of those things with one image. The logo for a golf course is the thing that opens the door to a conversation where somebody else gets to fill in all the blanks, and so it sort of it could seem daunting, because you get people that just sort of spill their whole guts to you about what this place or this course means to them, but you can really only capture a little bit about that. But if you make it interesting enough to where it sparks a conversation, or it is that it's that thing that opens the door to all the other things you want to talk about, then it's successful. And the key is doing that in a way that opens that door and starts that conversation, but also serves a business purpose, sells merchandise, looks good on things, and all that. But yeah, that's it can seem more daunting than it really is, because you can only do so much with the logo. So that's kind of that's part of the process, is sort of whittling down what's the most important thing, and how do we get people talking.
Yeah, for the longest time, I was so against wearing logos. I just never wanted to be a logo guy, for course logo specifically. And just recently, I was like, all right, you know what? We're getting the opportunity to play some pretty cool golf courses. It's time to embrace the logo, because I find myself walking up to somebody and the logo is the conversation starter, right? Hey, sick logo. Like, you remember there? Do you play there? Have you played there? And you start talking and connecting people that way. So yeah, it's you're right. It's so much more than just like a visual for people to see when they pull up to the golf course. It sells merch. It connects people. It does a lot.
I guess on the photography side and the logo side, y'all are professionals. You're getting paid for doing things very well. How do you combat that with amateurs that might think they could do the same thing? Anybody could pick up a camera. Anybody could, draw something in Canva or whatever as a logo. Is there room for both? How do y'all, I guess, separate yourselves on the professional side versus anybody else?
Yeah, it's something that I deal with on a daily basis, and there is, I studied to do what I do professionally, but that does not mean that I'm the only person that can do it. I think that anybody's capable of with a little bit of skill and a little bit of training, like doing what I do. I think where the real skill, what I like to think the real skill comes in is being able to understand the full context of what I'm trying to do for a client, or what problem I'm really trying to solve. And it's a matter of asking the right questions, trying to uncover that thing that makes this club, this course, this brand, whatever it is, special. And back to what we were talking about, the thing that can spark an interesting conversation and create a connection between people, because I think that's ultimately what any brand, anybody is kind of looking to do. That is not something that everybody can sort of pick up and do, but some people have innate abilities to draw and to create visual art. So anybody can get lucky and do it, but doing it for a living and day in and day out is kind of, I think, where skill and experience comes into play.
Mike, for you and Jeremy, people have phones that have cameras that are pretty good, and you can go out and buy a camera. How do you separate yourselves from professional with talent versus have camera, can take picture?
I think this is a great question. It's a question we've asked some of our guests too, because you're right. Anybody can take a photo, right? Anybody can pick up a camera, turn it on auto, and shoot. And I admittedly was that person for the first couple of years of learning how to use a camera. I think where you start to separate yourself kind of goes back to what Seth was saying, is the storytelling of the photos that you're taking. Are you just taking a photo to take a photo, or are you trying to tell the story of your round of golf or the golf course itself? And then for me, the biggest thing with photography is composition. And it's something I'm still working on. I still struggle with, right? I mean, I'll take a photo and go, it's trash. And then I'll go to edit it and I'll be like, it's garbage, but not total trash. But, it's still worth something. So I think that's where you start to separate yourself. And then when it comes to, getting paid and what's going on, anybody can undercut you, right, on an RFP. I mean, it's just the way it is. But the question is what is the customer looking for, and what are they okay with? And if you're not going to get hit on an RFP because you're overpriced, well, then it wasn't the right job for you. Let somebody else who is getting into it and cheaper and doesn't understand the value of what they're doing, take that job. And somebody who understands the value of what you're bringing and the pictures you're taking and the story you're telling are willing to pay for that. And that's where the real connections start.
Absolutely. And I also think that find what you do best and find it that someone else may not be doing it, and go after that. Because if you see an opening, take advantage of it. And if you can do that something better than anyone else, go do that. And I think that anyone just needs to find their why. That's my big thing, is why are you doing this? I could do headshots all day and make plenty of money, but I would lose my mind. And you just have to find your why that inspires you to get out of bed to go do something creative and fun.
Does headshot photography really pay, though, Jeremy?
Oh, it can. It can.
And the other thing, too, is we like Hafe, we like Jeremy, we like Jeff, we like all these photographers that the Waltons, the JPs, everybody knows the names. We like them because they are different, because they're doing things in a different way. We don't need another Hafer. We don't need another Marsh. We need somebody out there who's thinking of something different when they're shooting. And it's tough because it's flooded right now. Everybody's taking pictures, right? How do you stand out? How do you become different in what you're doing? And that might be something as simple as your editing process, right? Two people can take the same photo, and at the end of the day, they can be completely different looking as far as the way that they're edited. But yeah, I totally echo what Jeremy says. It's time to be, in a world where everybody's being a copycat on social media, the ones who come to the top are the ones who are being more individual.
And I think, Seth, you've seen this on shoots on your previous life, where it's the photographer that you may be working with, you want to make sure that they can come in and have a deck that they're following and get the shot. And if you're working in commercial stuff, it's not just, oh, go cover this tournament. You have to go get a specific shot for a specific need for an ad or whatever it may be. And you're only going to bring the person in that you know is going to be able to get that. Yeah,
it's that constant sort of razor's edge of like serving what this client needs, but also making it fulfilling and interesting from a creative standpoint. And yeah, on the logo side of things, like on the branding side of things, the golf industry is so weird in that there are so many famous, incredibly iconic and beloved golf identities that probably weren't really designed by definitely not by a professional, and some of them were just happenstance, and they benefit from 80, 100, 120 years of history and experience and stories that are just sort of ingrained in people's minds that get tied into that logo or that thing. Whereas like when I get a brief or when I have a conversation with a client to design a logo, it's like, well, we want to make it like the I don't know, the Shinnecock logo or whatever. And it's like, well, it's like that benefits from being around for 125 years, and you can't really replicate that right off the bat. What you can do is come up with something that is really ownable and unique, and hopefully in 100 years from now you're still using it and it's got 100 years of interesting stories behind it and wrapped up next to it. And so it's not the same way I would go about branding a corporation. It's a very unique challenge, which one that I think you have to be around the golf industry to kind of understand what golfers enjoy and what they are maybe looking for. But I get it wrong sometimes, and you just kind of have to trial and error, figure it out.
Yeah, maybe don't go with an Indian logo. I'm just going to throw that one out there.
Yeah, that's probably a terrible example, but don't do that.
Yeah. Seth, I have a question for you. At what point in making logos were you like, okay, I can do this now. Like, this is happening. I can go full time and do my own thing.
I still have. I mean, like, I've been doing it for 4.5, 5 years, but like, I still am like, all right, when's this gonna stop? Like, when are people gonna stop asking me to do this? But I don't know. I mean, I did kind of recognize early on that I had experience in the golf world that was very personal to me, and at some point, taste enters the conversation, and it's like, that it's that Ira Glass, that long Ira Glass quote where it's like, you hit a point where like what's good, and you can see what's good because you see people talking about it and recognizing it, and you can't really replicate that on your own until you get to a certain point. And I don't know if I've met that point or not, but like, I do feel like I know what people gravitate towards. And once I had the confidence to kind of understand that, I felt like, all right, like, give me a brief, let me try to do it. And I think I've gotten very lucky that, right place, right time. But yeah, I don't know. It's the confidence and creativity. And I'm sure y'all experience this with taking photographs. Like, it's a big thing for me. Like, if I don't feel good that day, like, it's like, it's like walking on the golf course knowing you're going to shoot 120. Mm-hmm. Like, if you don't feel it that day, like, you may not come up with anything good. So it's a constant struggle to like be like, all right, I figured it out.
That helps you get started.
Probably, I mean, Tree Farm was pretty big. Like, I felt like, working with Zach and coming up with the stuff for Tree Farm was like, all right, like, people really enjoy this, and I thought I knew why, because it was kind of, it was unique and it's kind of special. So yeah, that's one where it gave me a lot of confidence. But everything I do from a logo or design, I'm just like, I don't know if people are gonna love this or not. Like, it may not hit right.
Well, just so you know, the the Tree Farm logo, not the Tree Monster, the other one. My wife, who's in marketing and is around, she knows things about the golf world a little bit, but she was like, I need a hat with that logo because it's clean and I just love it. So you killed it on that one.
Yeah. Well, Zach deserves a lot of credit for that. I mean, like, that's one of those, like, you know, doodles sent back and forth, and finally he was like, what if it's just like this? And I'm like, yes, I know what you're doing. Let's go.
It's interesting, too, because I feel like the Tree Farm has been, you know, what, like, it's like 2 years old now? 3 years old, maybe? And I feel like there's so much you did up to that point that for me it was like, yeah, like there's so much more that Seth did that like kind of put you, quote unquote, on the map. So that's interesting that Tree Farm was the one that you think kind of pushed it out and was the one.
Well, Robby and I have talked about this. I have a whatever the opposite of a photographic memory of my own work. When it's done and I send it off, I forget what it looks like. And maybe it's like PTSD or something, but yeah, I'm not very good at remembering the stuff I've done, which is probably a good thing. But yeah, I've been so lucky that like I've been surrounded by people that are creative and that know, you know, that know what's going to resonate in the golf world, and I've just been able to take a lot of good ideas. I mean, some of the stuff is mine, but like take a lot of good ideas and just kind of, you know, put hands to it and bring it to life.
Mm-hmm. From a, not shifting too much on the topics here, but from a photography and talking about courses and logos and stuff, obviously golf course architecture is a big topic for some. There are a lot of new courses coming out. Tree Farm, for example. We've talked about Old Barnwell. You know, there's kind of an established old school group of golf course architects, and then you got a lot of the new ones that are coming on the scene. What stands out to you guys? Who's doing it well? Maybe who do you appreciate from the past that then translate to logos or photography as from a creative standpoint?
Yeah, I think on design of the golden era and the courses that still have that look to it, because so many of them were ruined in the 70s and 80s, and that's what I love seeing is the people that are coming in and restoring them properly to what they should be, because there's a look to the bunkering, or when you go to Pinehurst number 2 or number 4 and you see the old original Ross designs of the bunkering there or the waist areas, it's more appealing from a creative photography side, I think, than your standard perfectly green everywhere, straight lines. Like, I think it just brings more interest to the course. And like we talked about before we got on, that I'm right here by Eastlake and they're renovating it and bringing back some of the original designs. And I'm excited to see it when it opens, because I do think that course had suffered of 100 years of renovations that had taken some of the interest out of it. So that's how I look at it. But of course, I am an old Barnwell fan so much. I think what Snyder and Blake did out there is so unique that you just don't see anything like that as far as a new course goes. But then, I mean, where Mike lives out there, out in California, like going to all the places. He was just in San Francisco the other day, going up to Northwood and seeing the it's just I think I love the old school.
It is Mackenzie madness out here. I mean, Pasatiempo, Meadow Club, Rolling Greens is like a gem that nobody talks about. I mean, there's so many Mackenzie courses out here. Northwood, which is like, you know, most people out here until really like Zach and Andy, Zach Blair and Andy from Fried Egg went out and kind of brought life to it. It kind of gained some steam. But yeah, I'm with Jeremy. I mean, I love the old school feels. They're redoing the front 9 or the back 9 on Pasatiempo right now to bring it more towards that original kind of Mackenzie look. But, you know, I'm really loving, I feel like, how course designers now are getting a little bit more creative when they're building the golf courses. I mean, I came from St. Louis, and I don't want to knock St. Louis golf, but it is wildly boring. I mean, there is nothing super exciting about St. Louis golf outside of like St. Louis Country Club and Belle Reve. Outside of that, you feel like you're playing the same golf course. It's just a different name, right? And then to come out here and go from Pebble Beach to Northwood to Meadow Club, which all are an encompassing of 2 hours from each other, it's wildly different. And I just really appreciate that. And then you see all these new courses that are coming up where people aren't afraid to get creative with the way that they're making these golf courses, and it's awesome to see. I mean, I love Tobacco Road because it's a trip. I mean, like, people who wouldn't know would go on the golf course and be like, dude, how many mushrooms did this guy eat when he was making this course? And you'd be like, well, probably a lot. It's wild. But I mean, like, those are the kind of courses that get me excited.
Well, it's funny. This whole conversation, I've thought about a lot about this over the past year or two. Like, and my undergrad degree was in landscape architecture. I went into undergrad thinking I was going to get into golf course design, and I didn't. And I have an incredible appreciation for that side of the golf world, and especially how much attention it gets with a lot of people these days. All that being said, I don't think I've ever come off a golf course, and this is no knock on people that are in. I've never come off a golf course and been like, I didn't like that. I didn't enjoy that. I am so wrapped up in, like, I just get getting to play, and this is being, like, completely honest. Like, and looking back, like, especially playing competitive golf somewhere, or, like, junior golf in high school, like, there are courses I came off where I shot 100, 150, and I was like, I hate that place and I never want to play there again. But there's never been a course, and I'm honest when I say this, where I walked off and I'm like, I'd never play there again because I didn't like the architecture. That all being said, I love that this is a new avenue for people to get into the game and to latch onto the game if that's what makes them excited about it. And I'm an avid follower and admirer of Andy Johnson and Friday. I think it's awesome that people love that side of it, and I do appreciate that. And I know enough to kind of have conversations, but I also just, like, I thought about this a lot recently. It's like every time I walk off the course, I'm like, yeah, I'll play it again. Like, who wants to play? Let's do it. And maybe that's just kind of, like, speaks to my just, like, blind optimism of, like, if I get to play golf, I'm happy. But yeah, it's funny. Like, that's the first thing that came to mind when we talk about sort of the state of architecture. And that's not a knock on the people that are doing it these days, because there's some incredibly talented people doing it.
You know what bums me out is when you walk off a golf course that you absolutely love, and then you go to the pro shop and you're like, God, this logo is just so bad, I can't buy anything. And I'm thinking specifically of, like, so many golf courses in Southwest Ireland. It's a tough scene with some of those logos out there.
I almost
I love that.
Old Head's great. Which one do you not like?
Valley Bunyan.
Okay, which one? I want to hear this. They simplified it a little bit.
Not a good logo. I guess Waterville's good with the hare. You got Duke's is good with the frog. Old Head it's okay. It's just a tombstone. It's nothing, like, awesome.
No, it's not a tombstone. Did you not read the whole story? You put your hand through that to close the deal.
You can't even show up to a podcast on time. What makes you think I'm going to, 1, read something, or 2, remember what it said?
The caddy told me all about it in the rain. All right, it was a whole thing. I have a picture of me and my buddy putting our hands through the rock and shaking hands.
Oh, really?
And closing a deal.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, it's better, but not great.
Well, Mike, I get what you're saying, though. Like, you want to, if you play an incredible course, you want to have something to, your logo's the badge of honor, right? Like, you want to wear a hat or a shirt where your buddy's like, ooh, what's that? And you can say, guess what I played? And if they have a bad logo, you're not pulling out the credit card.
Okay, that tells me, Seth, I need to know this. What logo do you want to redesign, or give them something new more than anyone? Let's hear it. Come on, we're gonna make this happen.
Manifest it.
Oh God, this is yeah. This is a question that I've gotten asked, and every time I'm like, man, I'm gonna have a great answer for that, and I don't. I'd rather put it back to you guys because you guys pay attention more than I do, probably. What?
I'll tell you.
I'm sorry, but y'all tell me like what? Yeah, come on. You asked the question loaded with something.
I do think Northwood needs a new logo. I think that there's so much history behind it. It's a McKinsey design. It's in these beautiful tall trees. It's so unique. Their logo, it hasn't been changed. It probably got changed in the 70s or 80s and hasn't been touched since then. New courses. Have you guys seen Purcell Farms logo?
Yeah. I have.
I really hope you didn't design that one, Seth.
No, I didn't. That's happened in the conversation, so don't feel bad. I think that there are a lot that leave a little bit to be desired, but again, there's some that like are just untouchable because like why would you change it? You have so much wrapped up in that sort of asset, and if it's not from a design or aesthetic standpoint great, but it's got this like cachet, I'd have a hard time changing it just for aesthetic reasons.
What's y'all's take on alternate logos, though?
Love them.
I think it's great.
Love them. That's...
Yeah, from a business standpoint, I'm all for it.
Keep the historic whatever, but give some new. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's have like 3 or 4. Come on.
Well, I think a private club gives you that opportunity. I mean, a lot of clubs you go into, they have a members logo that's a slight variation of the one that a normal person can go in and buy. But I think you can always have, in that case, a third logo that you use for small tournaments, for member guests, for whatever it may be. You can have something special that is a newer update, especially when we're talking about courses like I would love to see an alternate logo for Chicago Golf Club. I think their logo is great because of the history behind it, but it could use something new and cool that would be really cool to see.
You talk about members logos. I played Pinehurst over the weekend and with a member, and he took me down into the member clubhouse, and I bought this, right? Like, I was like, ooh, an alternate logo that I've never seen on any of my friends' stuff. I'll get a pullover with that on there and be able to say, look what I did.
Those things are nice too, because if somebody points that out and they know, like, that's your people. Whether you just met them that first time and they pointed it out on your shirt, like, you're like, okay, we like, I hate the term, if you know, you know, but in that scenario, it's like, yeah, you know, and we're homies now, whether you want to admit it or not.
So the first time, the day Old Barnwell officially opened, the hole 18, I was there and I played 36 that day with my buddy Andrew. And we go up and there's someone watching us play. Ends up it was Brian Schneider. He comes over to talk to us later, and when he walks over, he has a Lido polo on. I didn't realize at the time that he had obviously worked on it, but I was like, man, that's such a good logo. And he goes, oh, you know what it is? Because it was pretty new at that point. And I was like, oh, I definitely know what it is. And like, I think it's a great point of what you said is like, you spot that logo of whatever it may be, and that person is automatically on your side. They're like, yeah, they get it.
Yeah, I was sitting in the tree farm in their little building having lunch after playing, and a guy walks by and has the onion from a hoopy on, and I kind of give him the head nod. I'm like, nice logo. And he's like, oh, it was so awesome. He kind of walks off, and my buddies were like, what was that? And yeah, we kind of bonded, me and this guy, because I knew what the logo, I haven't played there, but I knew what the logo was.
That's such a good logo. Yeah, that's one that you.
Yeah, and that's what we're shooting for. That's what you want, and it's hard to capture that intentionally sometimes.
Have you guys ever pointed a logo out, like saw somebody with a cool logo, walked up and said, hey, sweet logo, had a conversation, and then went and played golf with that person at the course? Jeremy says yeah.
Yeah, I definitely have. Just like, Bobby Jones or whatever locally here. It's like you see someone and we're like, oh, when are you teeing off? And we'll just end up playing
has
because
that
of
person, like, let's say you saw somebody wearing a Tree Farm logo at Old Barnwell, right? Let's make it easy. You're at Old Barnwell, somebody's got a Tree Farm logo on. You say, hey, sick logo, like, course is awesome. And the guy's like, yeah, man, I'm a member. If you ever want to come out, I'll host you. Like, and then you go out and play. Has that ever happened?
Actually, yeah, that's how I ended up at Tree Farm recently. That is the exact way it went down. Is we were at Old Barnwell playing with other people, and he's like, "Oh, let us know when you want to come over there," and he took us out
conveniently worked
just recently. Also, okay, I just want to say something right now. I just want to be on the record on this. I don't want to hear anyone compare Old Barnwell and Tree Farm ever again. They are so different as courses. I played them back-to-back days. I don't think that they are comparable. I think they're both great experiences. They're both great courses. They are totally different. They just happen to
open like within months of each other. I mean, they're always going to be compared because they're in the same area. They open around the same time. Like they're always going to have that going on there. But yeah, I mean, I've walked out on Tree Farm and saw some of the holes, but haven't played either of them.
I posted when I played Old Barnwell a few months after playing Tree Farm, and Zach Blair texted me immediately. It was like, what do you think? And I knew, he was just like, what do you, talk about them in comparison to each other. And honestly, like, it was so dumb of me, and maybe it's just my lack of awareness. Like, it didn't really cross my mind to put them together. And this is after playing them both. And I think it speaks to what you're bringing up, Jeremy. It's like they don't really need to be on the same, like in the same conversation necessarily. They're different experiences. Yeah, like looking at it from like a really high level, you could make a lot of visual comparisons, but really when you get on them, they're very different. And I agree. I think they're both great in their own way.
And yes, Robbie, I like Old Barnwell. And I've gone there more, and it is just a preference of mine. I think some of the creative shots that you have to hit there change it a little bit different. There's like just some of the green complexes are a little more design. It fits my eye better for a design aspect. I do think it needs to be re-rated. I think whatever raters came out there made it way too easy on the scorecard because I posted a score that I thought was pretty good. My handicap went up, and I was like, that shouldn't happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they're both incredible courses. Tree Farm starting with a par 3, that's kind of rough. I don't know.
I like it. I thought that was great. I did. I thought that was fun because if you know it when you're at the range, you're right there beside it. You can see it. You can know roughly what club you need to hit. So right before you walk off the range, you could hit your 7-iron or whatever it is a few times before you walk over there. I'm on board with it.
Pacific Grove has opening actually back-to-back par 3s to start.
Ooh.
Yeah. Which is one of my other favorites out there. The back 9 at Pacific Grove
it's pretty
is
awesome.
tough to beat.
I just looked up Northwood, and they need some help.
Yeah, I even bought the flag, and when I was there, just because I was like, I need it because it was my, and I haven't.
Well, and like everywhere on the golf course, you see they have these owls and bears that are carved out of wood, and they're just all over the golf course. And then the other story behind it is right across the Russian River is Bohemian Grove, and the idea was that Mackenzie would build Northwood 9 as a public course, but then it would bridge over to the Bohemian Grove, and then he would build another 9 for the Bohemian Grove members, so the members could play 18, but the public could just play 9. And he, for whatever reason, they never did the Bohemian Grove 9, and now it's just Northwood. But yeah, it's Seth. There's a lot. You come out this way, we'll go play, and then you can just pitch him a new logo.
Awesome.
Well, I know Seth's done stuff with Sweetens Cove and thinking of King Collins. Have you guys been out to Landman yet?
I have. I went last year. I actually have another tea time for September that I'm figuring out if I can make it to or not. And it's great. It is so big and so massive. Obviously, we're all here, big Sweetens Cove fans. It is just that on steroids. One of the biggest greens I've ever seen in my entire life.
I think it is the biggest. At least that's what I was told.
Yeah, I've told the story before, but it's a drivable par 4. I hit it onto the green. It rolls off the back left edge. The pin was front right. I was 40 yards away from the hole, and I'm just on the fringe. And I chipped it because how the putting went, I couldn't even get a putt to it, so I did have to hit my wedge over to it. My 60 degree.
Jeremy, was last year the greatest golfing year of your life?
Pretty close. I mean, let's see. I did Augusta. Well, no, Augusta was January, but I did Ireland, whole West Side, Lahinch, Ballybunion, Tralee, Old Head, Landman, obviously Sweetens.
Old Barnwell.
It didn't suck. Old Barnwell. I think that was the year I might have done Northwood too. I'm trying to remember. I need to get more in. I need to come out your way more and do some, because that's, for me, it's like being on the ocean is just a different environment. Specifically, I think the West Coast of the U.S. is always a little better than the East Coast as far as like being on a cliff and looking out over the Pacific.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But Landman's done a great job. Their logos are good. Their shop is great. It's a good experience. It's not as relaxed as a Sweetens Cove is. It is a little more like, okay, you have your tea time, you go and you play and you do it. But they're all very friendly. I am very excited to go back and do it again. Now that I've played the course, I'm like, okay, I have some ideas of how to do it differently and take some better photos. I definitely recommend getting out there. Have you guys heard about the Lost Rail course in Omaha, I believe it is?
Outside of Omaha, yeah.
I don't know a lot about it. Tell me, what do you know about it, Robby?
Yeah.
Private course that they bought from I think an old lady that owned the property or something, and y'all might fill in some gaps, but yeah, they were they've built a masterpiece. I was hoping to play it this fall, but I don't think it'll be in the budget for a round out there. Seth, do you know more about it? Incredible logo. I'll give him that.
Wasn't me. I pitched a lot of logos to him, but none of them ever stuck.
This place looks awesome.
My friend that I go meet, he lives in Kansas City, and last time we drove up and we were like, where else could we play? We ended up going up into North Dakota just because. I was like, we're 10 minutes from North Dakota. Let's go play golf there to say we did. And this is one that's on my radar. This and Omaha Country Club on the drive up to try to hit one or both of them.
Yeah. Well, Old Dane is going to be redone right there starting after this golf season. So Trev Dormer, who helped out with Landman, is going to be doing that one, kind of his first project. And I think it's going to be a 12-hole course or something when he's all done with it. And it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they can do with that. So you drive by it when you're going to Landman, and it's a flat terrain. Like, I'll be curious to see how much ground they move on that, or if they're going to keep it flat and do other things to make it interesting. Because it is dead flat, 12 holes, like super muni course, people going up there grabbing their cheap beers and walking around. I did not get to play it because we were getting out to Landman and back and just didn't have time, but I think it's great for them to have another option in that area for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, Seth, I have a question for you. This is very important. Well, first, how many of those Sweetens Cove logos, which ones did you do?
Not many of the original ones. Those were a lot of Rob Collins and Ben Hollerbach. Those are theirs. When Matt Adamski came on in whatever that was, 2018, 2019, that's when I got involved, and a lot of the sort of alternate type stuff that you see on merchandise is what I've done, and then any of the event logos. So member guest and all the sort of special events they do throughout the year. We've had a blast, and that's a dream client in that it's like you can do whatever the hell you want to do. It's just carte blanche.
Yeah, Matt likes to have fun with those. I can tell you guys, there's a bourbon-based Sunday golf bag that Penfold is making that is going up there real soon. I'm actually about to get mine in the next week to photograph, and it's going to be a good one. It's just all based on the whiskey design.
That's cool.
For the course.
Awesome.
But I did see, speaking of the Sweetens Cove whiskey, I saw they did a collaboration with Pinehurst. Andy Roddick was in a video today, I think they released, for some special drink for the U.S. Open or for Pinehurst or something. So using the Sweetens Cove whiskey there, or bourbon.
I saw that. It's gonna be at the Cradle, actually. And it's a specialty cocktail at the Cradle. Whiskey, sweet tea. Seems pretty good to me. They had Andy behind the bar serving them up for the day.
Lovely.
Yeah, I'll be up there in like 10 days. I'm gonna have to sample that.
Where are you playing?
Only playing the Cradle at the resort, and then we're going off site and playing Tobacco and Mid Pines and a couple others. I can't remember. I'm not in charge of it, so I'm just along for the ride, which is a welcome change.
You can't go wrong with Mid Pines Art Tobacco. They're both spectacular.
It's gonna be great.
Back to the Sweetens thing, I had to ask. The one that you did that was the sunset psychedelic type head cover that you designed a while ago, that I saw the version that you did that you had to like tone back a little bit. Was there an inspiration for that one? And was it?
Yeah, it was. It was not you. Yeah, it was an artist from the 60s or 70s, and man, if you would have asked me to pull that out unprompted, I could have. But I have to look it up and share it with you. But yes, there was a vibe I was going for sure, and it was sort of Yellow Submarine, the Beatles album cover. It's that artist, whoever that was what I. But I kind of took that and really ran with it, and I don't do psychedelics, but like I had to channel that for that project.
I love it. I was just checking because just hypothetically there may have been a time where I was like, Matt, if you see me walking around out near number 6, I'm fine. Okay, I'm fine.
Just need a safe space.
What do y'all think about them having to shut down for the summer?
It's a shame.
It sucks. Yeah, I'm glad they're doing it the right way and just saying, hey, it happened. You guys know down here in the South, we had a lot of those courses that got hit at least with either like the fringes. I've noticed a lot of fringes around Atlanta and other areas. When that grass seed went in and then that freeze came in, it killed all of it. And just they were just north enough that they got a little extra that really shut it all down and killed everything. So it sucks. I'm bummed about it, but it'll be great when it reopens.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing is that when it reopens, people are going to be itching to get out there. I mean, they'll lose, a year of golf season of business, but I feel like they'll be able to really bounce back next year.
They have some plans for the summer that will not take place on the Sweetens Cove property, but they'll keep the Sweetens Cove vibe alive in other ways. That's all I'll say.
Teaser.
Well, speaking of teasers, Mike, Jeremy, what do you guys have in the works right now? Anything that?
I told them what I was working on, Mike. I'm not gonna fully break it out of what I'm doing yet. I'm working on a special golf ball project right now. A good reference I posted on my Instagram the other day. I drove all the way to Virginia last week to photograph a golf ball. The James River Country Club, which is right near Jamestown, right Newport News, Virginia, has a great little museum there, and they had a golf ball that Old Tom Morris handmade sitting in their case. And I was looking for like a certain type of gutty ball from around that era before 1900, and they happened to have one that Old Tom Morris made. And I called them and said, hey, would you be open to me going up there and photograph it? They're like, absolutely, come on up. So that'll be something that'll go along with some other historical, purposeful golf balls that'll come out later this year, that I'm really, really excited about. It's something that I've wanted to do for a long time in this space, and it's actually coming together.
Manifested it. Yeah, I mean, I think from a podcast standpoint, I admittedly have to be better. We have taken a little bit of a hiatus. I had to get my shit organized on my side, but we're gonna pick things up probably next week when Jeremy gets back from one of his trips. We have people lined up that we need to interview. It's been crazy. So yeah, and then outside of like work, doing a couple RFPs. I got a couple of courses around the area that I have good relationships with. I've been traveling so much personally. I'm itching just to get out to a golf course without my clubs and just walk and shoot. And that's one of the most therapeutic things for me is get up early, when the maintenance crew is still out there doing their thing, and just to photograph a golf course just to photograph it. But yeah, I'm open to really anything.
Oh yeah, and I have I do photos for Pinfold Golf, and they have some collaborations coming up, Sunday bags, backpacks, things like that with the Ryder Cup. And the samples just came in for that, and they're also doing some for Sweetens Cove. And so I'm probably late next week, it looks like I might be doing some lifestyle-y type on the course. I might be going down to the fields with a spectacular logo down in LaGrange, Georgia, that Seth worked on.
Great spot. Those guys are awesome. Ashley Young is the man, and that's a special place that more people should know about and go play.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere again, but definitely worth making the trip to.
Who do you guys have lined up for future guests on the podcast?
So I just talked to Matt Golden, who is the video editor for No Laying Up, and he did the piece about Jim in Scotland recently. We've had a talk with him, and then who else did you have coming
Ray
up?
from Jones Sporting Company. He's definitely in. Our buddy JP Burkus, who is like everybody's favorite creator that I feel like nobody like really knows is out there doing awesome stuff. He's a St. Louis homie.
I played golf with him in St. Louis.
Really?
Where'd you guys play?
Him and Kyle. Glen Echo.
Played Glen Echo. Yeah.
Old course. That's where the Olympics were held back in 1900 something, 04 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah. They're
nice
both those guys are incredible. Did you go to the Gimme Studio or Gimme Golf Club and check it out? Yeah. I told Kyle, I'm like, dude, if you just would have had that open when I was around, like I may have stayed in St. Louis. Very likely I wasn't going to, but it would have helped.
Yeah. Seth, what you got going on?
A lot, but not a ton that I want to publicize at this point. But there's quite a bit of stuff in the works. I've got a lot of exciting stuff coming up with Western Birch, the tea company. We're gonna continue to roll out some fun designs for them. But yeah, there's a ton of course logo work in the works that hopefully I'll be able to share when I sell something to a client.
Very nice.
It's always a waiting game.
Very nice. Well, we kind of do one of the things, and I think you guys probably have some creative stuff to share as well, but towards the end of the show on Pictures on the Scorecard, we do this thing called the routine par, and it's just what kind of jumps out that's creative that we think others should pay attention to. And I'll start. I didn't want to. I gave Seth one just because I saw it come out, but I'll start with what I did. So I mentioned I was at Pinehurst the other day, and got to go into the new golf house, Pinehurst, saw the World Golf Hall of Fame. That place is incredible. Jeremy, with you guys, Mike, with cameras, y'all could go in there and just have days and days of content from everything and just from a golf fan, they've done such a good job with everything. So I highly recommend, if you happen to be going for the U.S. Open or just going to the Pinehurst area, Seth, make a stop into the Golf House Pinehurst. It's really, really good.
They have like so much historical artifacts that don't even make it out. I've chatted with Hillary, who's in charge of all of that, and up in New Jersey, where their headquarters is, they have these archive rooms just loaded with so many things that they're like, oh yeah, that's Alan Shepard's golf club that he used on the moon. Oh, there's the Gene Sarazen club that he hit the double eagle at Augusta. Like, all this stuff is just in this back room, not even on display. And you can just open drawers and drawers of stuff and I'm glad that they're finding another place to be able to put some of this stuff out.
So it's been in the works for a long time, but I had the awesome opportunity to work with Charles Schwab and Colonial Country Club on a design project that, really could have resulted in anything from a new logo for Colonial to a new logo for the golf tournament, the PGA Tour event this week that we're recording this week, the Charles Schwab Challenge. But I came up with a riff on the horrible horseshoe, which is something that's been designed before, but hopefully my spin on it will be well received on merchandise at the event. But obviously they're coming off of Colonial's coming off of a huge renovation by Gil Hance, and I think that it'll show out on TV. And it's really neat. It was kind of I posted this week on Instagram. It's kind of a bucket list design project to be able to design something for a tour event, and I'm really honored that it's going to be out in the world starting this week, and hopefully it'll be something they use for years to come.
Heck yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's so good. I saw it before I knew it was yours, and I was like, okay, that's great. I'm glad they're changing it a little bit. And Tom Coyne was heading out with Gil Hance to play in the Pro-Am, and it's so good. Well done.
Thank you. That's awesome. I appreciate it.
Jeremy, Mike, what's something that people need to pay attention to out in the creative world right now?
So I was impressed lately in the photography world. Both Jeff Marsh and Christian Hafer are making their own coffee table books, essentially. And I just think it's so great that people are printing these things and doing actual things. Because you don't even print stuff anymore to hang on your wall much. But I just love that they are taking the effort to take their best stuff and offer it as print versions that people can own and look through and be inspired by without just going on Instagram. And it's so much easier these days to make a book and have it self-published, where if you think about 20 years ago, how much harder that would have been. And it's inspiring to anyone who's like, just print your stuff, just make it look good and go for it. Otherwise it just gets lost in the computer and you never see it again.
I'm going to let Jeremy manage the photography aspect one, but one thing I think from a creative standpoint more people should be paying attention to is the collaboration in golf fashion and golf accessories that's going on right now, because it is really cool. It's a flooded market. Everybody wants to have a golf brand. Everybody wants to have a knick-knack out there. And a lot of these companies are going to weed themselves out. But when you start looking at some of the names that we're all familiar with, Mackenzie and Sentinel and Dimple and Divot, Gumtree and the head covers that they're creating, which are like unlike anything that anybody's really seen. They're taking a seed bag from a farm and turning it into a head cover. I just think there's a lot of really cool creative brands that are out there that are really starting to stand out. And I think that people should pay very close attention to those because it's awesome.
Very nice. So any closing thoughts, any inspiring words for those that might be listening to Snap Hook or Pictures on the Scorecard from any of you guys as we wrap this thing up?
Oh,
I always say, just when people say they're not creative, and everyone's creative, it's just how you do it, and just figure out what it is for you that makes you creative. It may not be photography, it may not be design. Figure out what that is and use that part of your brain, because I think it's so important to not get stuck. I mean, you guys, Robby and Mike, you're both in sales. You're using a different part of your brain doing this podcast, taking photos, whatever it may be. And I think it's important for everyone to go out there and find that outlet from their normal everyday job if it's not in the creative field.
And I'll add on to that. Just do it. Like, don't worry about perfection. Don't worry about it being awesome, because it's not. You're not going to be great right off the bat. But fail forward. It's a cliche, but it's what you have to do. You have to learn. 5 years from now, you'll go back to whatever it is that you did 5 years ago and think, oh, I can make that a little bit better, and it will stand out. But don't get hung up on perfection and just go do it.
Yeah, those guys couldn't have said it better. I think that that's a great inspirational message to round out the show. There are things that I did 5 years ago that I thought I'd be embarrassed by, but 5 years, fast forward, I'm like, no, let's do it. Let's make it better. I can build on that. So don't let perfect stand in the way of good enough.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Very, very well said by all of you guys. And one thing, Jonathan and I, that my co-host on one of the other podcasts, the Whole Story podcast, we always talk about, it's not about, it can be about where you play or how well you play. It's about who you get to play with. And I think that's the beautiful thing about golf, and this podcast right now is a great example of it, that here's four guys that love the game of golf, love talking with people, meeting new people, and there's a bond around this game where we're chasing a little white, sometimes yellow golf ball around the course, and there's beauty in that is a creativity on its own. So I appreciate each of you guys. I think this has been a great conversation. I think, like y'all did with Jeff Marsh, I think a lot of these things can be done over and over again, just a kind of a round table about, hey, what's going on in the creative space. But we'll find some time to maybe get together and do that. But I'll close this up. Seth, I appreciate it. Pictures on the Scorecard, awesome. Jeremy and Mike, this has been a lot of fun. I think if people aren't listening to Snap Hook podcast, y'all need to be definitely doing that. Who knows when you might meet somebody that's doing a podcast in a parking lot at Old Barnwell, and get to have conversations like this. So for Seth and Mike and Jeremy, this is Robby. We appreciate y'all listening to Snap Hook podcast and Pictures on the Scorecard.